The uranium was moved prior to the attack, and the processes continue to grow and develop right now. So, what does that mean? The United States in this position of moving back towards the Western Hemisphere is going to rely more on Israel. Israel is close. Israel is prepositioned itself in Somaliland to be have a more closer seaward movement around in that area, and I will suspect there will be some type of response or some type of action taken by our proxy Israel in regarding to Iran. As you know, Iran has stated that the government stated that they are at war with, of course, Israel and also the United States. Uh, they've got pre-notification that there will be impending uh, action coming up very soon. So the next thing I expect that we're going to hear about is how Israel has now uh, responded or now attacking the nuclear plants in the situation over there. At the same time, you notice the riots and the situation that's going on in the country regarding economic situation. This is by design. Again, we're talking about how the United States, how Israel, how the Western world can basically attack and neutralize the movement of Iran. Iran is also supportive of Venezuela. So you see how this cycle is going. Basically, we're trying to use checkmate and keep people off center so they can't focus on dealing with the situation in the Western Hemisphere, and at the same time keep Iran busy through its proxy with Israel, so the United States can carry on its global mission. So this thing has all been orchestrated, has been planned, and you're gonna see in 2026 a lot more confrontations, a lot more issues going on. And this issue with the nuclear plants, the growth, the development of that is going to come up again, resurface. So I suspect that we'll have some type of response by Israel, and of course, Iran is going to respond. But this time, we do not know where they're going to respond to. So it's going to be a very interesting year. A lot of newsworthy events, and unfortunately, there could be some collateral damage regarding these actions that's going on. It's a shift in New World Order, and right now the alignment is being adjusted in these first couple months of 2026, and we can expect a lot more excitement.
Thank you, Norman Floyd Barnes. However, I want to have another question towards you as we have time limitations. It is regarding this Iran issue with Israel. I mean, I understand that Israel has broken their ceasefire accords with not only the Palestine issue, but as well as Lebanon. We see that Benjamin Netanyahu was earlier on this week was with Donald Trump, and he had mentioned that these protests that are happening, that if anyone were to die in the protesters, that the U.S. forces shall be intervening. On the other side, Benjamin Netanyahu does have plans for a reigniting of the war that they had with Iran, the 12-day war. But he is taking his stance towards a Lebanese counterpart, the Hezbollah, which they theorize that is working under Iranian leadership to destabilize the region. So there is narrative, there is also counter narrative. My question to Norman Floyd Barnes, is World War III imminent? It's been 80 years since World War II, and of course, Novo Order Seclorum, New World Order. And who shall be a part of this New World Order? I want to understand more from Norman.
This is a very intriguing question. We talk about use the word World War III. The next war or the next major confrontation has already started. If we follow the path of what's going on, it's very similar to what happened prior to World War II, 1939 exactly. Things are positioning and being put into place for a confrontation, a showdown. We cannot, as a world, continue on this hot and cold, ceasefire on and off situation, and the build up of these type of tensions. Countries are now seeing that they have to take their own self-preservations into account because Big Brother is not going to protect them. The United States has stated that they have their own agenda. Russia has an agenda. China has an agenda. North Korea is supporting of the BRICS, and the BRICS situation is basically developing as a result of what's happening in the recent months.
Right.
So there's a shift. There's a new world order. With this, because of what's going on, you will see confrontations. To what level, we don't know, but there would be no more United States controlling this part of the region. China is controlling that kind of. There's going to be a set. There's going to be a decision made on exactly. Okay, I'm going to take this spear. You take that spear, and whatever. So we're looking at right now three main spears, and then
Right.
we have the issue of Africa. Who's going to handle the Africa, the MENA region? The Middle East, African region. Right now, Israel is in a position to deal with Iran. They're situated in that region, and like I said, they have now moved their interest into Somalia,
Right.
Somaliland, which is
Right.
part of Africa.
I
So
thank.
we need to be very, very suspicious of what's going on because things are moving at a very fast pace, and everything is on scale to change.
I thank Norman Floyd Barnes for his in-depth analysis regarding the worldwide issues here on international affairs. Due to time restrictions, he is no longer with us. However, I want to come back into the studio with Professor Rashid Alam. I hope that you were hearing Norman Floyd Barnes delivering on the fact of Iran. Now, if you look at history, the U.S. was complicit in overthrowing an Iranian leader way back in the past, Ali Mossadegh, if I'm not wrong.
1953.
1953. Today, the protesters are saying in the same lines of those era that a death to the dictator and the Pahlavi is going to come back. The monarch is going to come back. These are rhetorics that the U.S. used to control Iran. Of course, at the bottom of this all was the exploitation of natural resources. I want to understand how you felt, given that the 12-day war may be over, but in the long run, Iran is in a very crippling situation.
Right. You rightly said Iran is actually in war with the USA and Israel since 1979 after the Iranian Revolution. The way the US and its allies putting the economic sanction on Iran was tremendous. There is all out economic sanction on the Iran, so they cannot import, they cannot export, so they have lots of limitation in international business and trade, those aspects. So even though Iran try to be resilient, Iran try to building the capacity of its own, in terms of science, technology, educations, and many aspects, research, and also building new ammunition, new capacities. They have been trying their best, even though those kind of economic sanctions, how punitive those actions are. You can understand they cannot trade by the international chips like the banking channels. They have to do the barter system, like exchanging of foods, exchanging of products actually. So that's
Right.
how they're struggling a lot, I know. But within the Iran, there are some progressive, like the urban elites groups who have been totally in opposition against the clerical rule, like the Iranian, the Islamic way of rule, the Iranian Islamic revolution. They do not. There is a huge opposition against those Islamic revolutions. Actually, Iran see this conflict against the Israeli aggressions. So Iran, globally, even though Iran is in typically very bad situation, they continue to support the global resistance force against the Israeli and US aggression. Even though they are in poverty situation, they are supporting Lebanon causes, they were supporting Palestinian causes, they were supporting the Houthis and Yemen. So there is a global, even in previous administration, they also support Hugo Chavez, they also supported Nicolas Maduro, wherever there is a resistance against the Israeli and US order. So I know that's the problem Iran is having. So if you now install a poor Irani government, then every problem will be solved. I don't think you need to think that line, because what happened in Iraq, what happened in Syria, we can easily, and what happened in Libya. We can see all those aspects. So it doesn't that changing of the government, changes of the government will solve all the problem. It's not. Actually, it will pave the way for Israeli occupation of the all of the Arab. Currently, Iran is challenging Israeli aggression and Israeli annexation. So that is actually paved the way for more Israeli aggression in the Middle Eastern countries. So that's how I think I can see this conflict. You know, Iran has issues like the hyperinflation is the biggest concern at the moment. $1 is equal to now 142 million riyals, which is the biggest problem for the Iranian people, because they have to, at the same time, managing the internal affairs of the state and also at the same time preparing for the war, because they said there is a imminent threat from the US and Israel is coming, and that cannot come any day, because in last time when it happened, it came very surprisingly when they were in the peace talks. Within that peace talks agreement, the attack was happened. So you cannot rely. So Iran is a typical, I mean, very precarious situation. They have to prepare for the war and at the same time managing the internal affairs of the state, day-to-day affairs of this. They have been supposed to be there, a very challenging situation. But I believe lots of Iranians also supporting the rightful leadership of Iran having at the moment for the cause of resistant forces in the global order, who is actually trying to prevent the Israeli aggression in the Middle East.
In the modern day, I have not seen any nation take on Israel or be able to see a bombing of Tel Aviv, the capital of Israel, or the supposed capital of Palestine, I would say. They are conquerors of these lands and they have expansionism plans. But Iran and their Khurram Shah, I think if I'm not wrong, a ballistic, intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM, had made a landfall. So all of these issues I will want to pick out from you as well, Professor Rashid Alam. However, production is in directing me to go for another short break. When we come back, we will start our last segment of the program for today. Do stay with us, ladies and gentlemen.
Timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10 Dhaka. Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the last segment of International Affairs. Here in the studio on January 6th, we are talking about various worldwide issues, and in the studio we have Professor Rashid Alam. Before the break, we were talking about Iran and how Iran has gone through a very rough history regarding narratives, regarding the leadership. Today, they have a country that is led by the Khamenei's control, a theocratic state, if I'm not wrong. And today, we see how the Western powers, and not only so, Iran are facing off even after the war has ended. I want to understand how you felt, given that Iran are also known as to be the people who represent the Persians. They have not been defeated in 5,000 years. So that is the generalized comment regarding them. So once again, where do you see Iran? What is its role as a player in the international community? It is an oil exporting nation, and maybe that's why people have far grander intentions towards this piece of territory.
Right, absolutely. Like, you know, Iran has been fighting for Palestinian causes. Iran has been fighting for the Lebanons and also Yemenis, whatever there is. I mean, global oppressed. They are, Iran is supporting for the case of this global oppressed anywhere in the world. And this regime's actually trying to bolster a narrative, like, you know, even though there are immense challenges from the global powers, U.S. aggression, they can be stand on their feet, and they have been trying to do so. Unless if you think about, like, when they have a nuclear agreement with the P+6 countries, like in 2015, at that time they agreed upon to control their nuclear enrichment, and global order was very much, I mean, very much helpful, by particularly when that taken place. But then when Donald Trump has been withdrawn USA from that peace deal and peace agreement with Iranian nuclear enrichment, where other the permanent countries of the UN they agreed upon. But Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew of that peace agreement with the Iran, put Iran is more I mean, precarious situation, particularly in economic sanction and other issues. So if you, the current situation of Iran, like internally, that protest that has taken place due to, you know, hyperinflation and also lots of international trade and business embargo, so which actually causing higher hyperinflation. But I mean, if you want to make responsible, then you have to make responsible the international order, which has been continuously supporting this aggression and supporting the internal sovereignty of the other country. That's how international order is taking place. Iran is happy to agree with the international partners to reduce their uranium enrichment. When then international organization, US, like major countries, withdrew themselves from them. So I cannot make Iran liable for that, this kind of situation. So Iran is now trying to, you know, there's a imminent threat that's coming from the Israel any day, anytime that they can attack Iran. So that's why they have to heavily prepare for the war, which also causing lots of budget spending, military spending from the budget, even though they are facing lots of crises in terms of managing the everyday affairs like food stuffs, importing the health and educational and medicational stuffs. All those are very much, the price has been increased tremendously in the last 1 year compared to this year. So that's how the Iranian people, some of the educated middle class urban people, they are protesting against the regime. But there is a huge support base for the Iranian regime in the rural areas as well, as far I understand. And they also echoing with the echoing the Khamenei's regime, which, although even in comparison to the other Middle Eastern countries, Iran practicing some kind of democracy. You know, although Arahabar is the theocratic leader, he is the head of the state, but Iran have conducted every 5 years there is election is taken place. You know, the changes of the leaders, the Khatami, then Ahmadinejad, then Rouhani, now Pezeshkian, Ibrahim Raisi. So you can see the changes of the person who was running the day-to-day affairs of the state. At least in the Middle Eastern standard, Iran has a democracy, but West is unable to recognize that. Yeah.
Of course, that's important. As we were talking about the Middle East, there is a deepening rivalry that's unfolding in Yemen. I see that the two GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, Saudi Arabia and of course the United Arab Emirates, are of course not seeing eye to eye in the Yemen's war or divergent support inside Yemen's civil war. Of course, the Saudi Arabia is backing into Yemen's internationally recognized government, while the UAE is supporting the Southern Transnational Council. So it's a separatist force in the southern of Yemen. This group recently seized territory, including key provinces and oil fields in the south. Today, we are seeing the destruction of Yemen by none other than Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Of course, it is a very big issue regarding the fact that inside the entire neighborhood, we have a pariah state trying to doctrine or trying to teach us how to run this territory, Israel. So I want to understand, before we can go on to finishing this show, I want to understand, why are the two GCC neighborhoods fighting in Yemen?
Right. You know, the recent development in Yemen is very much shocking. Like they are trying to develop a new independent country like North Yemen and South Yemen. That was happening since 1962, 1990s. But yeah, I think the UAE is involved in the different cases of the war, particularly in Nigeria. We have also heard in Sudan, they are supporting the RSF forces,
Yes, UAE
which is also
supporting the
destabilizing
RSF.
the Sudan at the moment, and now UAE also having their, I mean, the grey hand to the Yemen crisis as well by supporting
The very RSF has killed 6 Bengali lives.
Right.
From
And also
UN
millions of
peacekeeping.
people, yeah. So I think, I don't know what's the interest of UAE in this regard, but UAE, I know their economic development, they have been a huge, I mean, economic corner, I mean, the economic hub of the Middle Eastern countries. They should have been focusing on the trade and business and how to attract international investor in UAE. But suddenly they are now into going to the different routes of instabilities. I'm creating instabilities or patronizing the instabilities in different parts of the, particularly Middle East, in North African region. I don't know what is UAE's interest here, particularly probably there should be some group within the government, they have captured the UAE leaderships and they probably penetrated the UAE leadership and taking them in a wrong. Even they also have a mishandling the Libyan cases as well. They're also putting lots of arm to the rebel groups in the Libya as well. So I can see that in the whole of North Africa and Middle East and Yemen, UAE is causing some sort of disstabilities, and I believe this is not the right things to do. Probably I can understand there should be something behind the UAE leadership which is instigating these issues and creating instabilities in various parts of the North African Middle Eastern countries. Yeah.
I must thank Associate Professor Rashid Alam from DU for his valuable insight and commentary regarding all of these issues that pertain to the global order, as well as our geopolitical correspondent Norman Floyd Barnes, who had joined previously on the show. As I draw a closure, ladies and gentlemen, today is 6th of January 2026. We are 6 days inside this year. However, there is a historical event I want to bring towards our viewers. On January 6th, it is one of the most consequential days in modern American politics and its history. On this very day, a mob breached the United States Capitol as Congress met to certify the 2020 presidential election results. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. I shall see you all tomorrow. Do stay tuned on our following program, Special Bulletin at 3 p.m. Goodbye.